Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavadidamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste and welcome to the Spiritual Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra Savithri. I'm a Reiki Master teacher who's been involved with Reiki since 1990 and a Vedic healing priestess since 1998. I'm the founder of the American Reiki Academy and the Vedic Healing Center. In this podcast, I share teachings on Reiki, mantras, meditation, and spiritual practice as lived paths for clarity, grounding, and inner change. So welcome to today's episode, and in this episode I am going to be exploring what stayed with me after studying with Roxayne, my Reiki Master and spiritual healing mentor, not as ideas but as teachings that I lived, that she lived, and that she passed on to me. In the last episode, I offered the listeners her words directly from an interview I did with her in 1991 when I was very new to Reiki. This episode is going to be a little different. This is about what shaped me, what never left me, and what those early words meant to me, how they influenced me. So the first concept I want to talk about as related to Reiki and what Roxayne conveyed in that interview is she said, if you remember, she said, Reiki is Reiki. Now, she was very clear about this. What she meant was that she was accepting many different presentations of Reiki as long as the work was sincere. She was never rigid about form. She was not interested in policing how Reiki was showing up in the world. Instead, I would say, she trusted the intelligence of the energy itself. And that is what is so beautiful and real. This stayed with me. It actually taught me that lineage does not mean narrowness. Instead, it means depth. And it's one of the reasons I myself don't get caught in dogma. Even now, there are so many versions of Reiki circulating. I have personal opinions about many of them, but I always return to the notion that if the transmission is sincere, if it is coming through that person from a place of sincerity and love, then Reiki is going to meet the recipient where that person is. And I'm very clear also that people attract the right teacher to them, the right healer to them at any given moment. So there's that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And that's how I view Reiki and the different transmissions of it. And that's one of the notions that Roxayne gave me in her great acceptance of allowing the energy to flow and to move in the world as it is going to move. Now, the second teaching I wanted to mention today, directly from that interview is that Reiki is a vehicle, and working with this energy is never a drain. It should never drain, and it does not drain your energy field. If you recall, in that episode, Roxanne talked about being sensitive from a very young age, and many of us who get into the healing arts are sensitive, highly sensitive, and some of us even may fault ourselves for being highly sensitive. I always tell people when they come to class that if they feel highly sensitive, then it is a beautiful gift. And it is also an indication that they will be a very adept practitioner, and whatever that means. So adept doesn't mean any sort of comparison. It just means that you will take to the energy very easily. So you're always, if you are stepping into the healing arts, your sensitivity is actually an asset, a great asset. So Reiki as a vehicle, not a drain. Roxanne spoke about the fact that as a teenager, she naturally picked up energy from people and environments. And this is also something that many people experience when they are getting into the healing arts. They say, I've always been an empath. I can feel other people's feelings, or I can sense their thoughts or the unexpressed energies inside of them. So this is also an indication that Reiki will be a very easy path for you if you are drawn to it. So Roxanne felt things deeply. Often, she said, without knowing how to separate what was hers from what wasn't. And Reiki became a vehicle of expression, a way to send energy without her absorbing it. This is one of the beautiful aspects of Reiki. Reiki is a way to transmit healing without depleting yourself. And that's what Roxanne learned. And this was incredibly important for me to hear, because Reiki is never about taking on other people's pain, which is sometimes hard, again, because as people who are highly sensitive, we can also go into that mode of taking on people's pain. But rather, it is about being, it's not about being, porous. It's not like you're absorbing the other person's energy. And it's not about being self-sacrificing. It's instead about becoming very clear, grounded, embodied, so that energy can move through you and not into you. If the energy were moving into us, I would venture to say it would be very difficult to continue doing healing sessions. And Reiki gives you a way to bypass that, because the energy that you're working with in the person, the recipient, does not get absorbed back into you. And this whole understanding shaped how I teach Reiki practitioners, and also how I teach them additional techniques to protect their energy field, which can be used as an adjunct to supporting their practice. But in general, Reiki is a vehicle for healing and allows you the ability not to take on other people's energy, but to help them at the same time. Now, the third teaching I wanted to mention was seeing connection between people beyond belief. So there was a deeply mystical side to Roxanne. She spoke about, in that interview, she spoke about fasting. She spoke about reading a play based on Genesis and the life of Jesus. And following those experiences of being in a heightened state from the fasting and reading this play, she describes seeing clairvoyantly the connections between people. What mattered was not the theology. Instead, what mattered was that she trusted direct perception over belief. She didn't need doctrine to tell her what was true. She saw clairvoyantly connection. She experienced unity, and she trusted all of this. So this gave me permission very early on to start trusting my own lived spiritual knowing, not just what I was taught to believe. And it's part of why my work bridges, I would say, Reiki, mantra chanting, devotion, meditation, without being confined by a single framework. And I guess I would say also that this is the beauty of developing as a healer, that you really find your own array of modalities that shape your contribution to the world through the healing arts. So the last thing I want to say is that one of the benefits, the great benefits I had from studying with Roxayne, not only the levels of Reiki, but studying with her for many years, spiritual work, doing all sorts of modalities that we did together, was that she didn't give me a system to replicate. Instead, she gave me permission to trust the intelligence of energy itself and my own relationship with it. So this trust has stayed with me for decades, and it's something I carry into every initiation, every class, every student I work with. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirkamaya Mrityurma Mritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Om Sai Ram. Jai Guruji. Om Amriteshwariye Namaha. Hare Krishna. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for listening. And if you feel called to study Reiki or learn more about this work, please feel free to visit the website that is noted in the show notes. And until next time, be well. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.